And welcome, everybody. We are glad to see you. Thank you for joining us. This is Retirement Unscripted, where we have conversations about this period in our lives and the potential that it offers us to redefine, re-architect, and move forward with who we're going to be for the next 20 or 30 years, or whatever time that we're blessed to be given remaining in our lives. It should be different. It should be special. And we love to talk about it. As usual, my partners in crime, John Fassnacht and Jeff Cornwall, are with us here today, as always. And we're pleased to welcome our guest today to this conversation from Texas, Florence Ricks. So welcome, Florence. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. I'm glad to be on the podcast with you today.
We like to start. We'd love to know a little more about you. Can you tell us where on this path are you in life? Where on this path of what we would traditionally call retirement? And we will have a conversation about that word a little later, but where are you on this path?
Well, I'm taking a little different path than most people. I tell people that I've been retired like 4 or 5 times of the traditional retirement. That stop, go do something different. I work right now part-time, but I work in an environment where I enjoy working, the people that I enjoy working with. It's a small company. It allows me to have purpose and meaning. The company is about meaning. It's about values. That's so important to me in where I am in my life. It keeps me busy and active and keeps my mind going. I've entered into the world of ChatGPT. I love AI and everything about AI, so I'm a learner, and that keeps me active. And I have learned over the years that probably would have been diagnosed years ago, ADD or AD, whatever, they're giving them whatever alphabet it is. But I can't sit still.
Is that why you didn't succeed the first few times you tried to retire?
That's exactly right.
So how did you know you were failing?
How did I know? I was very good question. I was getting bored, extremely bored. I was starting asking different places. I'd go to the gym and ask if they were hiring in the athletic department. I go to the cryotherapy place and ask them, were they hiring at the front desk? So every place I went to, I would be asking them, are you hiring part-time and hiring retirees? And then I said to myself, if I take the job, instead of just doing nothing and just going to work, punching in and punching out, I would probably be trying to figure out how to improve their processes, how to re-engineer things, how to help them staff, how to help them deploy. And so I said, no, I don't think I'm ready to do that. And a friend of mine who worked at where John and I formerly worked, he brought me in and out to do consulting work, and then he would hire me, and then I'd leave, he'd sever me, and because the business changed, and then he brought me back to do more consulting work. And then one day he said, hey, would you be willing to come back and sit on the executive leadership team with me? And he said, and I says, yeah, if you hire me part-time. And the reason for that is because when you're doing consulting work, as you know, if you've ever done it, when you're off, you're off. So everybody gets PTO and you don't get anything. So I said, all I want are 2 things. He says, what's that? I want PTO and I want a 401k contribution. And that was because my husband and I decided to explore buying an in-home care business. That's the other time I tried to retire, is instead of just retiring, I bought an in-home care business. And I really felt, we both did, that was a calling to take care of seniors.
Was it a franchise?
Because
a franchise
we bought into that. And me I had a franchise background. I thought they had done their homework, but I will tell you they had not done their homework. The demographics we bought in, instead of a lot of retirees or people that needed to take care of their parents turned out to be a community of up and coming people. So, I'd be on the Thursday morning workshop at the chamber trying to figure out my 60-second pitch and all of that. But it was really good work because it gave me the opportunity to help people who really needed it. And one hand, I had a briefcase in my mind, coming out of corporate America, being an executive. And on the other hand, if a caregiver couldn't show up to work, I had to go in and be a caregiver and provide toileting care and do those things. So it was humbling. It really humbled me. And it made me realize that one day I could be that person. And so I might as well enjoy this stage of my life where I am, because I don't know when it's over, but I do know, as my mother used to say, I got one foot in the grave and another one on the banana peel. So at any given day, I could be that person where somebody's taking care of me. So it gave me, it gave me purpose. And so that's when I realized that it's important for me to have purpose.
So I love your energy, Florence, and I love this story, because this story to me illustrates why I don't like the word retirement. Because you have described to us a period of your life where you can't just slow down. The word retirement to me, has that feeling of entropy. And this is the opposite of what you're describing. It's not retirement, it's reinvention. So this story perfectly, I apologize, we're going to argue about this later, I'm sure, is why the word retirement doesn't work, is because it's about finding something new to do. It's not about stopping your life. And
I totally agree.
I enjoy that story. I enjoy that story a great deal.
The other part of what you're describing, Florence, sounds like you're pursuing things that are of deep value to you, and and you keep using the word purpose and values.
Absolutely. It's to me that's important, because I don't want to get into quoting scripture, but too much is given, we should give back, right? And I feel like I've been given a lot in my life. I can go back to how I grew up, and in the ghettos of Chicago, in the hood of Chicago, by a single mom who wanted the best for me and made big sacrifices. And so I just feel like where I am in my life, that I need to give back. And so I've done some work with Global Advance, which is a ministry organization where we help write curriculum for third world countries who feel like if you're in business that it's this devil, because they're, so much, illegal stuff, the government's illegal and what have you. And so we wrote curriculum around the Bible that says that you can have business and have a kingdom business without, thumping the Bible over somebody's head. And so once I did that, then they asked me to stay around and help one of the pastors in Kenya to roll out the curriculum. And that was rewarding too, as well, because it was like, how do I take all these years of business experience and then give it to somebody else who needs it? And so for me, that's why I don't retire. I've reinvented myself. I find purpose. And I love your word when you say graduated. I feel like I'm constantly graduating.
Okay, another ally. Thank you very much.
So to me, I think what you're describing are inflection points.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I'm not nuts about the word retirement. I like the word graduation even less. I think that's because I was an academic, and it has a very specific meaning to me.
Yeah.
Well, I was also an entrepreneur, and I know in life I've had many inflection points, and to me, I think the stage I'm in life right now offers more opportunity to take advantage of interesting inflection points that I might not have had the time or the energy to do before.
Absolutely.
So I don't, to me, both of those words are, I've finished something. And what I'm hearing you say, Florence, is you are just beginning some new adventures and some new things.
Absolutely. I'm constantly exploring, constantly learning, constantly. And people, my husband said, I hurt myself the other day. I had to go to the doctor. I overdid something. I'm that kind of person who you say run a mile and I'll go try to run 2.
Right.
But that's how I'm wired in my head, but I also have a respect for where my body is. I'm sensitive to that because it tells me every day I wake up that I'm not that 20 or 30-year-old or 40-year-old that I was years ago. So it reminds
my wife and I always say we wake up and it's not if something will hurt, it's what's going to hurt today.
Absolutely.
So I want to back up a little, Jeff, because you make a good point here. It's neither graduation or retirement. And then you said the word entrepreneur. And I wonder if we can maybe at some point, maybe not in this conversation, maybe we will, is there a word for this period of life that has a basis or a foundation in the word or concept of entrepreneur? Because I'm listening to Florence, and this is an entrepreneur of life. You're starting things, you want to build things.
That's where an inflection point comes from, is that world.
Yeah.
And it specifically refers to points where you make decisions about your business on what you're going to do with it.
Right.
Are you going to grow it? You're going to raise a bunch of money and grow it? Are you going to milk it and have it cash flow? Are you going to sell it? Right. But there's always something after that. And so I like that word comes from my world of entrepreneurship is inflection point. So,
well, I love that.
It may not work any better than the ones we've come up with, but it'll give us something to talk about for weeks. So
I like that inflection point. And I'm going to tell you why, because I've had people around here and they're like, when you're in HR and you're a small company, in the finance and everybody, they all know my age. I don't talk about it, but everybody knows my age. So they'll ask me occasionally, so when are you going to retire? So it came to me one day and I told somebody, I says, I'm already retired. In the traditional sense, I am retired.
Right.
If that's what you're thinking about, because we had a deal. My boss and I had a deal when we brought me back. I don't want any more 360s. Not to say that I'm not open to feedback, but I really don't want any more. Had enough. I don't want a 360 ever again in my life.
What else don't you want?
What I don't want?
I don't want a meetings. That's one I'd be on my list. I don't want a 360 and I don't want a meeting.
Yeah. Unless the meeting is valuable. The other thing is that I don't tell me how to modulate anymore. I don't want to modulate what I have to say.
You all speak a language I don't even understand. What is modulate? What does that mean?
Modulate how you say things. Flo, don't be so direct. Flo, soften it up. Flo, say it differently. Flow. It's kind of like I said, I'm that grandfather that is in that lounger chair, that with my hands in my pants and the remote control that says, don't tell me anything else. Right. I've done that. I've been there. I don't want to hear that anymore.
Right.
That's not what I want. Now, my kids have learned that too. They're like, Mom, you won't listen to anything. I do listen if it makes sense to me.
Right.
If it doesn't make sense, then I'm not listening. I think I've earned that right.
So this is a period of life where we get to be more real, more authentic.
Yeah, authenticity.
Yeah.
Authenticity. If I could have learned that years ago,
at 25,
I think that I would have conquered the world. And I'm trying to teach young people that right now, Be who you are. Don't pretend to be anything else. Now, of course, if you're in an environment, I'm not going to put my hands in my pants. Okay, guys, trust me.
We appreciate that.
Yes, I'm not doing that.
Hey, no
Okay?
judgment if you want to do it.
No.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to cuss anybody out. But,
Yeah.
I do have bubbles over my head.
Florence, one of the things that you're describing really is a blessing of this time, because it sounds like you get involved in something and then it kind of runs its course, and then you find something new and it runs its course. But everything that you're describing, you're discriminating for those things that personally are of value and are of purpose for you. So it's not like you're locked in, you're open.
Very, very much so.
Which again is another blessing of this particular point in time in our lives that we're blessed to have.
Yeah, the other thing is I know John and I worked together, and I was Florence. And I'll share this story with you all too. When you talk about inflection points and transitioning in your life, after I left the job that John and I worked at together, which was a pretty big job and a big organization, good sized organization, that's when I retired, if you will, for the second or third time. And I even went back to the name that they called me when I was in school, in college, which is Flo. And I'll tell you why I did that. And because when I was in corporate America and trying to move up the ladder, I thought it was more prestigious, more accepting, more professional, if you will, to be called my full name, Florence. Because in college, everybody called me Flo. So as soon as I left the big job, I went back to Flo. And so everybody knows me as Flo. The only ones who were calling me Florence are John and people who knew me in the past. And my dance coach, who I have a dance coach, and the kids were calling me Florence. And then they realized that I'm Flo. And I go to the dance studio, and believe it or not, when you talk about inflection point, I am an amateur competitive ballroom dancer. And I started that late in life.
Wow.
I really did. I was something I wanted to do, just to dance socially. And I started coveting the classes before me that were a lot more formal. And so I started dancing with who I dance with now. So I've been dancing for about 15 years. And then I started competing. And all the kids in the studio, I saw them grow up. And when I go into that studio, it is such a joy because they all hug me. Oh, Florence, and they're kids. And I just love it. And they sit around and share with me what happened to them at school the other day. And we sat around and talked. And so when people say groups of friends, I have the dance groups of friends. I have kids that are friends. I have global advanced that are friends. I have friends all over that are different kinds of friends. That's another thing that I've learned during this time.
That's interesting. That when I retired, one of the biggest joys for me was not hearing either Professor Cornwall or Dr. Cornwall anymore. It's just Jeff.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just students, it was colleagues, it was people in the community. There's a certain prestige when you've got a high position at a university, and at first it kind of startled me when my new friends down here in Florida just call me Jeff, because that's who I am. I'm just Jeff.
Yeah.
But I love it now. I love it now.
Yeah.
It's that you mentioned the word authenticity. I think sometimes, I know for me, I felt like I got a little pretentious at times in terms of trying to present myself in a certain way. And it's nice not to have to worry about that anymore. I did
Right.
put it on. I put it on a nice shirt today. Usually I do these things in T-shirts. I thought, well,
Yeah, usually something flower printed.
I
as
know,
well.
I know.
We're a little
Jeff.
disappointed here.
I got coached by somebody that it was probably a little over the edge. So
No, you were a beacon.
You
for
were
us.
modulating, Jeff.
Yeah.
Yes. You were
Yeah.
modulating. Yes, that's what you were doing. That's right. You were
Yeah,
modulating.
I love that. I love that. It's just it makes me feel like they're knowing me instead of some position or some.
Or a facade, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Somebody
Because,
who you're really
yeah.
not.
It creates a set of expectations around a formal name like Florence or a formal title like doctor or professor.
Yeah.
So it's terrific. What a great insight. This is a question for everybody, I guess, is if we could travel 20 years into the future, what do you want to be able to say about the previous 20 years?
Oh, 20 years. That's assuming I still have a pulse, right?
Yeah, we're all lucky enough here to be around in 2 more decades. And what do you want to say about the previous 20 years?
I'll go.
Go.
And maybe I'll start it because it's not scripted. I mean, just coming off the top of my head.
Absolutely.
And then is that I have met so many wonderful people on this last 10, 15, 20 years. What I want people to say is that I touched them some kind of way and made a difference in their lives in a positive way. I mean, nothing special. I didn't give them $1 million. I didn't leave big inheritance or anything like that. But I was fun to be around. I was authentic. Like I said, these kids that loved me and hugged me, that if I had a memorial service, and I told my husband, if I dropped dead on the competition floor, that would be ideal for me because I would be already made up.
And well dressed.
And well dressed. And I told my dance coach this, and he says, but I got to figure out how to ship you back home. And so, I mean, and that's that's the kind of person that I want to be known for, is that I made a difference, whether it be in the global advance, I helped write curriculum, or in the dance studio with the young kids that are on their way to college, that when I go in, they hug me, that the friends that I've met at the gym, that they look out for me, we look out for each other, that the friends that I have, longtime friends like John and people that I've worked with, I just want them to think of me in a fond way, that I cared and that I made a difference.
Yeah, great answer, John. I'll put you on the spot.
Yeah, it's interesting. You guys all know I teach at this little school, and today I had a performance review. Not to be into the corporate setting, but it wasn't a performance review in a sense of here's the piece of paper, let's go through your strengths, and it was more like, John, how you feeling? And so what was interesting is being able to kind of share what brings me joy with teaching these kids, these autistic kids, these dyslexic kids, the kind of quirks that make them fun, that we kind of give back. And then the director said, John, you need to know that you make a difference here, and that you bring a joy and a positivity that when you're not here, we don't feel. And so I guess that's what strikes me is and again, like you said, Florence, not that that's what you're aiming for. You bring that by just being you and being authentic. It's just who you are. So in 20 years, looking back, I would hope that sense of what was shared with me in my performance review would be kind of a performance review of my last 20 years of life from my family's perspective, my friends' perspective as well. Fun guy, brings positivity, makes us feel supported, feel valued. We miss him.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
for me, and we've talked about this before, the difference between work friends, business friends, and real friends.
Mhm.
And having sold a company, I went through firsthand, that migration of 95% of the relationships that I thought were friends were gone because it was all transactional.
Mhm.
And I didn't think it'd be quite as stark when I left the university, but it was. And so my mission right now for the next 20 years is to build a lot of true friendships. I'm kind of an introvert, and so it's a challenge for me. And so I view this as not an easy thing for me to do, but I truly want in 20 years to have a lot of friends and real friends, not just transactional business kind of friends.
Very good. Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that I got the most out of those 20 years, but I'm also going to borrow or steal from Warren Buffett, who said the definition of success is, do the people you want to love you actually love you?
Oh, yes.
And
Yes.
so that'll be something I'd like to be able to say in 20 years, that
Yes.
the folks that I want to love me actually do love me, want to spend time with me, want to be around me.
So
Yes.
I'm gonna bookmark this episode, and in 20 years I'm gonna watch it and see how we did.
Yeah, it's a great idea.
Those are
Yeah.
four.
Great idea.
I mean, y'all, those are really good things that you all are aspiring to and trying to achieve. I love that.
Yeah.
So just
Love
to
it.
finish here, let's shorten the time frame a little. I'm going to ask you to describe your perfect day. You have this great gift. We all do. This transition, this graduation, this retirement into a new paradigm of life. We've been given resources. We've been given opportunities. We have a brain, experiences. What's your perfect day look like? Florence, Flo.
Okay. That's not fair to start. I went first last
Okay,
time.
we're going to start with Jeff. We'll go the other way.
Oh, with me. Oh my. My perfect day is one that is completely different than yesterday.
Great answer.
Mhm.
Great. You don't even need to embellish that one.
That's right.
That's a great answer.
I'll go next. My perfect day is it's the way I spend my time right now. But what would make it more perfect is just to be more aware and sensitive to the folks that are around me, and to be able to respond in that kind of a way. Just to see the sacredness and the ordinary structure of my day, I guess is the way I would put it.
So I'm going to cheat a little and say my perfect day is where the people I want to love me actually love me. But I will say this. No, my perfect day is, did I give the world something that's scarce and that it needs?
Yeah. I like that.
And I'll give you a short story about that. My wife and I, as an experiment, did that thing where you can have the groceries brought out to your car. And I went to pick them up, and the woman who was supposed to deliver them was a half hour late. I wound up sitting there a half an hour, and she was obviously frazzled. And what I did was I just saw what she needed was to run into a customer who wasn't going to tear her apart, but to encourage her, tell it's a great job she's doing, and it must be so hard. And tell me how I can help you next time. How far in advance should we call for this to make it? And the relief in her face that she was seen and heard, and that she was affirmed in some way. It's a small little story, but it left me thinking, this is what I should be doing with my day, is giving people something that the rest of the world is not going to give them. And we have the time. Like, it didn't cost me anything to sit there. I wasn't late for a meeting. I had no reason to gripe about anything, but to spend time, to spend a few minutes of a very small investment to help this frazzled woman feel heard and seen and cared about. I thought, wow, that's opportunities. I should be doing this every day for somebody in some way, because the world right now obviously is running short on kindness and understanding and encouragement. So I think we all have that opportunity. We've all led blessed lives. So that's my perfect day, I guess, would be included in my perfect day.
All right, Flo, you waited long enough. Now it's your
Okay,
turn.
Flo,
No, and I'm not going to steal from anybody, but I think that's that is also my perfect day without waking up in pain with something hurting. but the very thing that you said, it's a perfect day when I can help put a smile on somebody's face and have the discernment that that person needs a little cheer in their life. Whether it's at the gym, whether it's at the dance studio with the kids, whether it's here at work, is to be able to identify that person needs somebody to give them encouragement, to give them something worth living for. It was a lady at the gym who was cleaning our gym, and I started talking to her, didn't know her from Adam's apple. I knew she was a worker. And now every day I see her, I can't remember her name. She calls me sweetheart and tells me that I am the most sweetest person she ever met, because she has 5 jobs. And I encouraged her. I says, hang in there. You're going to be great at what you do. You just hang in there. And so it's being able to tell somebody to hang in there, even though we know we're in a terrible time right now where everybody is angry at each other and mad and all of that. It's to be have a smile on my face. That's a perfect day for me.
Terrific.
Love that.
Terrific. Hey, Florence, Flo, again, thank you. I'm going to remember.
Yeah, John's never going to call me Flo.
Yeah, Flo.
I'm going to call you Mrs. Ricks.
It has been fantastic to have you. It's been fantastic to have you with us. A wonderful guest. We're going to have you back. We're going to talk more. Obviously, we have far more than the half hour that we budgeted, but we have enjoyed you a great deal. John and Jeff, always great to see you. And to everybody watching, thank you. Hope you learned something. Hope you were inspired. And make sure to come back next time.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me on your show. I really appreciate it.